On April 1st, 2003, the United States Supreme Court heard an argument that the University of Michigan Law School had violated the civil rights of a white applicant when it rejected her application in favor of less qualified minority candidates. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that the law school's narrowly tailored use of race in admissions decisions is not prohibited by the Equal Protection Clause. In the majority opinion, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote, "Drawing racial distinctions is permissible to further a compelling state interest. One of those is to ensure a critical mass of minority students." For the minority in opposition, Justice Antonio Scalia countered, the university's mystical critical mass justification for its discrimination challenges even the most gullible mind. Affirmative action continues to divide the United States and symbolizes deeper fissures in the American body politic.
Jillian Collins. Please enter your password. You have one new message. To check unheard message, press 11.
Hello, honey. I just called to see how you're doing. Your father and Aunt Jenny say hello. I love you. And no matter what happens, I'm very proud of you, baby.
I love you too, Mom. Professor Boris, is he around? Professor Bortz, is he around? Do you know where he is?
Could you bring me the 3-hole punch?
By definition, it can't be a foul unless it's called by a ref.
I understand your point on an intellectual plane, but we have to accept that there are imperfections in any human endeavor.
It ain't up to me to ref the game. Look, Gray, I could hit somebody as hard as humanly possible. I mean, I clocked that brother so bad, his grandkids walk with limps. But unless it's seen by a referee and no one else, and judge the foul, I've done nothing contrary to the rules of the game. And if I've done nothing contrary to the rules of the game, I've done nothing wrong.
You say it, but in your heart of hearts, you don't believe it.
I'm sorry.
Of course I believe it. Extend the metaphor. This is the basis of our legal system. Until there's a conviction in a court of law, there's no criminal. Ergo, there's really no crime.
That's ridiculous.
You might call it ridiculous, but that's the way every successful defense attorney should think. And I'm telling you, 5 years from now, Mark Garagos will be working for me.
Have an accident, Wolf? You're just happy to see us.
Hello, Washington.
Wolf, you all right?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
So, how's it going?
Not bad, man.
Did you pass?
I don't know. I was hoping to see Bortz before class, but I haven't seen him.
No worries, girl. Karen! This Saturday night, you got time for that drink that we were talking about?
I don't know, Chase.
What's up? Hey, what's up? What's up? It's just a drink.
I don't think I'm ready yet.
For a drink?
Hello, Karen.
Hello, Braden.
Is everything all right?
Why wouldn't it be?
Hello, Gray.
Any interviews this week, Bakey?
Liebman Kaiser, specialize in medical malpractice.
New York-based?
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of them.
The inimitable Gillian Collins strikes again. I don't know what she's got against me.
There's Herr Bartz.
Nobody knows.
Jeez.
Oh, did you burn yourself?
No, I tickled myself, Einstein.
And who's the genius who drank from the hot cup of coffee?
Gadzinski genius. There's a contradiction in terms.
Dumbass vendor. I had to sue his Ionian tuchus. Let him be the one paying off my student loans for the next 25 years.
Precedent, of course, being the McDonald's case in 1992, when the jury awarded Stella Liebeck over $2.5 million in punitive damages.
Damn straight.
Hey, remember that Seinfeld episode where Kramer gets burnt at some coffee shop and settles for a lifetime supply of lattes?
Yeah!
Which goes to prove that bad case law results itself not only in one injustice, but multiplies itself many times.
It was only a TV show.
You clown, I was referring to the McDonald's case.
Oh, there he goes again, Braden Gray, apologist for corporate America.
Oh, can't believe I'm hearing this from you of all people. Where's your rhetoric about individual responsibility and common sense applied to the legal process? Now you're saying that the plaintiff deserved to receive damages from McDonald's.
Whether she did or not is unresponsive to my observation of your blatant prejudice in the matter.
So you agree, after all, that the McDonald's case was frivolous? Then we can deduce that your comment was simply an ad hominem attack directed at me, not an attempt to clarify a legal issue.
Of course.
Good evening, Professor Bortz. Professor Bortz?
He's not here yet, Martin. Although his code and books are. Has anybody seen him?
I haven't seen him. Have you seen him, Wolf? All of Professor Bort's things was here when I got here, and Wolf was here before me.
Listen, come! Gleason, what's wrong?
He's barking at the cloakroom.
Gleason, sit. Something is wrong. Do we know what's in the cloakroom?
The door's closed.
Could we open it?
Look, it's locked, Martin.
Give me a second.
I don't know how to do that.
Wasn't always on Dean's list.
Jesus! What is it?
Wolf, Great Bakey, come here!
Somebody tell me what's going on.
We don't know yet, Martin.
dead. Professor Bortz is dead. Someone bashed his head in.
Oh my God.
Didn't happen long ago. A couple of minutes at most.
Oh my God. He did it! He's crazy and evil.
What are you talking about?
When I got to class, the door was locked, and then it was open. And Wolf was sitting there by himself. And then James and Braden came in right after. God, Wolf was alone in the room.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
I'm closing my books.
You're gonna stay exactly where you are. We have to call the police. Who's got a cell phone? Quick.
This building's in a dead zone.
What is this, guilt by accusation?
You try to leave this room and we'll be forced to detain you.
You've been waiting for this moment for 3 years, haven't you, Gray?
Karen, there's a payphone across the hall. Call the police. Karen, do you have change? Karen! I got it. Everybody stay here.
Go. Great. Chill. Wolf wants to leave, that's his business.
What are you talking about? He killed Professor Bortz.
You don't know that. None of us know that.
Just wait a minute.
For what?
You can see what's gonna happen here. The cops will come, believe Jillian, just like Karen has, just like all of you have, and I'm as good as convicted.
You're innocent until proven guilty.
Karen! You don't understand. If the cops are called in now, my life is over.
Oh, that is so bloody melodramatic.
Oh, is it? I'm gonna be interviewing for work in a couple of weeks.
We all are.
Yes, but I'll be the only one who'll have to answer. And Mr. Wolf, how are the murder charges against you proceeding?
You're presuming you'll be charged.
Even if I'm not charged, do you think any reputable law firm would take a first, let alone second look
Well,
at
if
me?
you didn't do anything wrong, you've got nothing to worry about.
Gray, I don't have the advantage of calling Uncle Skippy and then starting on Monday for 6 figures in the corner office. Well, I'm being exonerated, which could take months or even years. There'll be a score of people leaving this classroom talking about what happened or what they thought might have happened, and the people they'll talk to will put their own spin on it, and that's what I'm worried about!
He's right. Where I come from, that happens all the time. Find a patsy and the man convicts no matter what the evidence says or doesn't say.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, we all know that convicting innocent people doesn't happen in the manicured lawn world of Braden Gray.
Stuart, I am so sick of your whining crap. Do not ever touch me.
Hold on. You're making sense, guys. Wolf. Washington.
What?
What if he didn't do it?
Edrin, I didn't.
How can we be sure of anything at this point?
Then what would you have us do, Wolf? Even to do nothing is to do something. And we have no choice but to do something.
Trial.
A trial.
A hearing. Think of a preliminary hearing.
It's ridiculous.
We hold a formal hearing in this classroom. If at its conclusion there's the collective belief that there's sufficient evidence to take me to trial, then by all means, you call the police. You turn me in.
He's got a point, Gray. Let's hear him out.
Am I the only sane one left?
Does anyone remember Richard Jewell?
Of course, we remember Richard Jewell. He bombed Olympic Park during the Atlanta Summer Games.
No. Richard Jewell was falsely accused. Richard Jewell didn't do anything wrong. Eric Rudolph was the bomber.
A hearing in this classroom may be my only chance for justice. Now, I am asking. Please.
What can you say to that?
Brayden, are you sure about this?
No, I'm not sure. But in fact, I've never been less sure of anything in my life. All right, Wolf, let's hear how you want to play this out.
Trial, hearing, you could call what you will. Maybe the only fair one that any of us will ever participate in.
What are you talking about?
Well, criminal procedure, that's what this class is called. We learn about procedures that facilitate the law, but we're indifferent to what will best serve justice.
This is called law school, Wolf, not justice school.
That's my point exactly. We can't change the school's mission. But what we can do, here and now in this self-contained universe, is establish a fair and just procedure that delivers an appropriate form of due process. Look, what can be fairer than a prosecution and defense who call witnesses who have not been prepped?
Witnesses must be prepared before they testify.
With the result that their testimony is carefully crafted to provide only half-truths. Look, is there anything that thwarts justice more effectively than silly, exclusionary rules?
Oh, what you are arguing for is chaos in the courtroom.
Rules which, by definition, exclude facts and the search for truth. What could be saner than a jury drawn from intelligent, sophisticated people who know the individuals involved and can draw rational conclusions about their credibility based upon personal experience? We can create a forum where men and women of goodwill, with no other agenda than the search for objective truth, can fairly weigh evidence, render a sensible judgment.
Shouldn't we consider the ramifications of a trial?
This is a bad idea. We're gonna get in trouble.
Jillian's right. We've got to call the police as soon as we discover the body.
Well, isn't it already too late for that? We discovered the body some time ago, and we didn't call the police.
So where does that put us?
What do you think, Martin?
We could discover, or not discover, Professor Bortz's body an hour from now.
He's right about that.
I don't like this. James.
We'll need someone to act as judge.
I know who I trust.
Martin?
If we're going to go that route, then I accept.
I'd like to be the lead prosecutor.
I'd like you to be lead prosecutor as well.
I need an assistant, Irina.
I'd be honored, Brayden.
Wolf?
I'll handle the bulk of my own defense. If Washington consents, I'd like him to be my second. James?
Yeah, of course.
Both sides will have a couple of minutes to come up with their witness lists.
Obviously, we have to call Jillian. Alexander Bakey will be the expert witness.
Yes.
Gazinski?
Opportunity.
Where's Gazinski?
Right, of course, so we'll have to get her in there.
I need a bailiff and court officer to help me keep everyone in line. Assuming that you're not on the witness list. Are you up to it?
No problem, Judge Judy.
I need everyone to come in and listen to me.
All right, you heard him. If you're not Wolf Gray, Washington Arena, move on in. Huddle it up.
Wolf and Brayden both have very strong personalities.
It's an understatement.
I don't want anyone coerced into doing what they really don't want to do. If anyone wants to walk out of this room, it's time to do it. Right now. But if not, then we're all willing participants in this process.
Don't you want to plan a strategy?
Not being guilty of doing anything wrong has always been a pretty good defense.
Wolf.
Washington. We're smarter and more comely than they are. They will call their witnesses, and we will turn them inside out.
How do you plan on handling Karen?
I think it'd be best if you questioned her.
I think you're right. But it's not like you two are... Hello?
Yes?
We're not making a mistake here, are we?
Mistake.
This whole thing.
He thinks he's so much better than I am.
This isn't about you and Wolf.
I know, that's not why we're here. Even Wolf deserves.
Prosecution, you ready with your witness list?
We're ready.
Prosecution will call Alexander Bakey, Jillian Collins, Aaron Zagruder, and defendant Daniel Wolf.
Objection! The accused can't be compelled to testify against himself.
We're here to seek the truth, not hide behind technicalities. Wolf will testify if called.
The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution is more than a technicality.
It's all right, James. I'll be more than happy to testify for the prosecution.
And this court is disinterested in yours or anyone else's happiness. Everyone called is compelled to testify fully and completely. Next issue.
Defense has the same witness list as prosecution.
It is now just a little bit past 6:15. This class customarily ends at 7:30 sharp. Past experience indicates that not long thereafter, a janitor comes in and cleans up. There are two possible outcomes to our proceeding. Should we find Wolf guilty, the body will have been found just like it was only an hour later, in exactly the same way. One of us will contact the authorities, and what happens from there? It is perfectly believable that we would have waited in this room, given that Professor Bortz's belongings were here. We can plausibly say that we didn't know where he was, and we stayed here to study. On the other hand, if Wolf is found not guilty, and he will be given the presumption of innocence in this court, then we'll leave at the end of class. Presumably, the janitor finds the body and contacts the police. It's inevitable that each of us will be questioned as to when we arrived and what we did.
Then won't we have to lie?
You're gonna be a practicing lawyer in a few months. Better get used to it.
The most important time, in fact, the only important time that you have to account for is the time before you arrived at class. Prosecution will present its case first, followed by defense. I will allow very wide latitude. All information of a probative nature will be admissible. Time constraints mean that I must keep the proceedings moving. Are there any questions before we begin?
Okay, let's get going. We'll set the jury up along the wall here. Edge, Adam, you want to grab some chairs? We need 2 rows, 6, I think. Come on, let's move it! Wolf and Washington, you can set up defense right where you are. Same for Braden and Irina. Actually, you know what, guys? Move up a row. Let's tighten it up a bit. Witnesses can take their seats in the back until they're called, and then, Edge, you want to put a chair center there for when they're on. Yeah. Okay, let's go, guys. Come on.
James, what are you doing?
No one needs to find my fingerprints here.
Come to order. Court's in session. Here comes the judge.
Prosecution will give a brief, and I stress brief, opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, I have not had the chance to conduct the normal discovery process. Information may arise that will surprise you. It may surprise me. I ask for your forbearance and understanding if the story as it unfolds is not smooth and seamless. A great American novelist once said that the truth uncompromisingly told always has its ragged edges. I plan on revealing the truth. Prepare yourself for the ragged edges and wounds it may inflict. It is incumbent upon me to prove means, motive, and opportunity. Opportunity and means will be relatively easy. Motive is more complex, but just as easy to fathom. Several months ago, you may recall that Daniel Wolf and Professor Bortz engaged in a highly contentious, emotionally charged argument. Revolved around a topic that arouses strong passions in all of us. Now, normal people control their anger and let bygones be bygones. Daniel Wolf is not normal. Moments ago, Jillian characterized him as crazy and evil. She's right. I will prove that indeed he is evil. And this is what led him to commit cold-blooded murder. And you will find him guilty. Thank you.
Defense will make its opening remarks.
I didn't do it. I have a suspicion of who did and how and why it might have happened. Even though I'm not required to deliver the guilty party, I may be able to describe what really happened. But I didn't do it. And that makes me not guilty.
Prosecution will call its first witness.
We call Alexander Bakey.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but...
That'll be unnecessary, Mark. My suspicion is that those in this room who are predisposed to dishonesty are unmoved by promises made to either God or man.
All right.
Alexander, for the record, please state your academic and work experience before attending this law school.
I did a 4-year undergraduate in science at Berkeley before being accepted into the medical program at Columbia University in New York City. I successfully completed med school and was 6 months into my residency when I realized I wasn't meant to be a doctor.
You've had practical experience in the area of violent and traumatic injuries?
I interned at New York Lutheran, just off Central Park West. We used to get a lot of knife and gun wound injuries. You could say I've seen my fair share.
Have you encountered wounds similar to those inflicted on the deceased?
Yes.
Could you speculate on what caused them?
This is highly speculative. Martin, I was never really a doctor. For something like this, you really need a coroner to do a full-on...
We understand that. Witness will please answer the question to the best of his abilities.
Some sort of blunt instrument. Baseball bat. Maybe a hammer. More accurately, a mallet.
Well, are there items in this room in plain sight that might have caused the injuries that you observed on the professor?
A wooden chair. And in the cloakroom beside the body, there's a metal garbage can. Even that might be the weapon.
Now, would the act that caused Professor Board's death take a great deal of strength to inflict?
A great deal of force. Not necessarily strength, if you understand the distinction.
Yes, thank you. And is the defendant, Daniel Wolf, capable of exerting this type of force?
Objection!
On what grounds?
That calls for a conclusion. Everyone agrees that Bakey's credentials make him most expert strictly in the medical field, but it is speculation as to whether the defendant is capable of exerting this sort of force.
Point taken, but overruled. That answer most definitely falls under the rubric of experience and expertise. Witness may answer the question.
I'm not sure I remember it.
Is the defendant, Daniel Wolf, capable of exerting sufficient force to cause the death of Professor Bortz from the injuries you observed?
Yes.
One more point, Alexander. From the brief examination you made of Professor Bortz, could you approximate the time of death?
From when I examined him? A couple of minutes to half an hour at the most.
You could tell this by
temperature of the body. Felt normal to the touch, and the limbs were only slightly tight, but rigor mortis had not yet set in. A proper medical examination with stomach contents could pinpoint the time of death within 15 minutes, provided it can be established when he last ate. But anyone who watches Law and Order would know that.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Bakey, you testified that Wolf was capable of the force necessary to kill Professor Bortz.
Correct, I did say that.
Am I?
Excuse me?
Do I have the strength necessary to commit the act that you believe resulted in the death of Jonathan Bortz?
Yes.
Do you? Does Gray? Amy?
All right, James, you've made your point. Allow the witness to answer the pending questions.
Yes. Yes, and yes.
In fact, is not each and every one of us presently in attendance in this room fully capable of exerting the deadly force necessary to kill an elderly and shrunken man?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Prosecution will call its next witness.
You call Jillian Collins. Jillian, could you please describe what happened after you arrived in this building tonight?
I got to class around 5:50 and...
Sorry, why are you so sure of the time?
Well, when I got to class, the door was locked. And I was surprised because everyone knows that Professor Bortz is on time for everything. Oh, yeah, and one more thing. When I was walking up the stairs towards the door, I thought I heard like a thumping noise or a door being slammed shut.
Please clarify the sequence as precisely as possible.
Okay. I reached for the door, and it was locked. I had nothing else to do. I couldn't get in. So I went to use the payphone, just outside of class, to check my answering machine for messages. And when I got off the phone and came back, this time the door was unlocked. So I came in.
Was anyone in the room?
Just Wolf.
Did you see anything else you believe is pertinent?
Oh, yeah. Professor Bort's coats, books, and briefcase were where they are now. And I asked Wolf if he's seen them, and he said no. And then you and James came in right after.
Which means that prior to you entering this room, Daniel Wolf and the dead body, Professor Bortz, were alone in the same locked room.
That's right. That's how I know he did.
Objection!
Jillian, you know better than that.
I'm sorry, Merton. Wolf was alone in the room when I arrived.
Thank you. Nothing further?
A couple brief points about your testimony. Could you do me a favor and close your eyes?
Objection. Close your eyes.
I ask the court's indulgence.
Witness will cooperate.
What does that sound like?
A door slamming.
May the court please remind the witness that many of us can walk and chew gum at the same time, and it is within the realm of possibility to speak with one's eyes closed.
The court will instruct the witness to follow instructions and admonish counsel to show proper respect.
And what does this sound like?
Sound like you stomped your foot.
So you can tell the difference between a door slamming shut and the sound of a thump.
Yes.
But in your earlier testimony, you stated that when you approached the door, you either heard the sound of a thump or a door slamming, so which one was it?
Objection, he's badgering the witness.
Overruled.
Can I open my eyes now?
Yes.
I'll open my eyes when Martin says I can.
Jillian, you can open your eyes.
Well, was the sound you heard earlier this evening a thump or a door slamming?
It was loud. I wasn't thinking it was either.
Now it has become loud. But when Braden was examining you, you said you thought you heard a noise.
Well, I did hear a noise. And if I was closer to it, it would have sounded a lot louder.
Jillian, please. You heard any sound consistent with something that would falsely implicate me, right? Because you were in this room.
Excuse me, where is the question?
This time I'll sustain the objection. Wolf, if you've got a question, ask it and allow her to answer. All right?
Jillian.
Could you tell your classmates what mark you received on your makeup exam?
What do you mean?
Well, I saw you looking through Professor Bort's belongings earlier this evening when you thought you were alone in the room. Did you find what you were looking for?
I don't understand the question.
Well, let me break it down for you. Did you write a makeup examination for this class within the past week?
Yes.
Why?
Why?
Yes, Jillian, why did you write a makeup exam?
Because I wanted to improve my mark.
Are you failing the class?
Martin?
Jillian, please answer the question.
Yes.
All right.
And did you see the result of your makeup exam? The one that you have to pass in order to get through this class and graduate with the rest of us?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it, but you were looking for it.
Martin, how long are you going to allow this to continue?
I assume that there's a point to all of this.
Bear with me, Jillian. I am just trying to establish that you didn't find out what your mark was earlier.
No.
And that you weren't going through any of Professor Vort's papers.
No, I wasn't. I didn't touch anything on his desk.
Nothing.
No.
To make it perfectly clear, you have not touched any objects or papers on Professor Bort's desk this evening?
That's right.
Nothing further.
Prosecution calls Karen Zagruder. Karen, in addition to your law school studies, what other extracurricular activities are you involved in?
I am the editor of the law school newspaper, The Sentinel. I have been involved with it for my 3 years here.
And there has been some controversy surrounding the paper in this time, particularly in the past several months.
Yes, I would say so.
And largely due to the writings of one columnist, Joseph Pravda. Joseph Pravda is an alias.
Yes, it is.
And you know the identity of this individual. Is he a student at this law school as well?
I'd prefer not to have to answer that. There is an ethic in journalism that a writer protects her sources. Similarly, an editor owes anonymity to one who wishes to publish under another name.
Not in this proceeding. Witness will answer the question.
I object most strenuously.
Why, James? Everyone knows who wrote those hateful and simplistic pieces. Oh, what's the matter, Wolf? You don't have the balls to act.
Hey, shut up! Thank you, Mark. Would everyone else remain quiet and allow the witness to answer the pending question? Thank you.
Karen, who is Joseph Pravda?
Daniel Wolf.
Can you tell us a little bit about his piece? The one from earlier this semester comparing law school aptitude test scores of minority students to the other members of the law school.
Daniel obtained some highly confidential information and we published it.
Don't tell half the story.
Wolf! Daniel found that on average, the minority students in this school obtained Significantly lower scores in their LSATs than the other students.
And that was confidential information, wasn't it?
Yes.
Well, how was it obtained?
I don't know.
It was obtained illegally, wasn't it?
I didn't ask. But I knew it was information the law school didn't want in the public domain.
Very controversial?
Yes.
And what was the result of this controversy?
The dean asked for the name of the writer. I refused. He threatened me with expulsion. Members of the faculty came to my support. They circulated a petition demanding that I be allowed to remain in school and stay on as editor of a school paper. But the same petition also offered unqualified support for the school's admissions policies. Professor Bortz wrote a long autobiographical piece about his personal experience as a freedom rider in Mississippi and the ongoing need for affirmative action programs. I printed that piece. Proudly.
And how did Wolf react to the professor's column?
He was furious.
Objection. If prosecution wishes to know how Wolf felt, it is perfectly free to ask him. Anything that Karen would have to say on this matter is clearly hearsay.
James is right.
Did you observe an argument between Daniel Wolf and Professor Bortz soon after you published Bortz's article?
Yes.
And how would you describe it?
Very acrimonious.
Karen, could you remind us as to what your academic credentials are?
I did my undergrad at Brown, majoring in psychology. Then I proceeded to do my master's degree at the University of Pennsylvania in the discipline of criminology.
What was your thesis?
The behavioral profile of sociopaths.
Karen, what is a sociopath?
The World Health Organization defines a sociopath as someone with a gross disparity between his or her behavior and prevailing social norms. This disparity often manifests itself in high levels of aggression.
And what are other defining characteristics of sociopaths?
Sociopaths can be exceptionally bright, tending to excel in areas like math, engineering, deductive logic, and the like. Sociopaths are primarily loners with few, if any, friends. They can be charming when they choose, but it's like they're empty inside. They think that everyone else around them is as cold and barren as they are. Hence, they believe that qualities like compassion, tenderness, and sentimentality are only signs of weakness. In terms of personal relationships, they're incapable of either giving or receiving love. And sexually, they're stunted and inhibited and frequently impotent.
So you've had a past relationship with the defendant?
Yes.
And how would you describe it?
We were close. Once.
So you know him better than the rest of us?
Perhaps differently.
Karen, you were intimate with him.
What is your point?
Do you believe that the defendant, Daniel Wolf, has certain characteristics in common with the archetypal sociopath?
Objection.
Witness does know the defendant, and she has relevant expertise.
Let me rephrase. Do you believe that the defendant, Daniel Wolf, is a sociopath?
Yes, I do.
As such, is he predisposed to violent antisocial acts?
Yes.
Even murder?
Yes.
Nothing further.
I'll take this.
Martin, can we get a moment?
Make it quick.
I thought we agreed it would be better if I questioned Karen.
Yeah, that was before. Trust me on this one. So I'm a psychopath, am I?
No. You're a sociopath.
Yet, you were still romantically involved with me.
We all do things in life that we later regret.
And how long was our relationship?
A year and a half.
It's a fairly long period of time. And who terminated it?
If I remember correctly, Daniel, our lease expired. We chose not to renew.
And how long ago was that?
2.5 months.
Now, Mr. Gruder, in our time together, did you ever see me murder anyone?
No.
Perhaps you saw me commit an act of assault.
No, I didn't.
Did I ever raise my hand against you? Did I ever raise my voice in anger? Not in exasperation, but in what one would reasonably term a loss of control.
No.
So, you've never seen me act violently, nor have you ever heard me speak in an, if I may term it such, an antisocial manner? That is your testimony?
Yes.
Did you ever hit me?
Martin, what does this have to do with...
I am merely continuing the line of questioning which opposing counsel initiated. They were the ones who brought our personal relationship into this, not me.
He's right, aloud.
Did you ever hit me?
I may have.
Don't parse words. That's a yes. And for what reason?
I don't remember exactly.
Is it because I wouldn't say that I loved you? You remembered that, don't you?
Did you ever throw things at me? Dishes, liquor bottles? Did you ever scream at me so uncontrollably that the police were called to our apartment?
Wolf, my patience is being stretched thin.
And I thought you were going to allow me to continue.
That and the fact that my patience is being stretched thin are not mutually exclusive. Where is this going?
Well, I am establishing, and quite successfully in my opinion, that the psychobabble from the over-degreed Miss Magruder is as worthless as old copies of the rags she so proudly edits, given her obvious bias in this matter. And I am certain I will establish this with a few more simple questions.
Go ahead.
Are you seeing anyone at the present?
What difference does that make?
Are you seeing anyone at the present?
I date occasionally.
Well, it's nice to know that you're so frisky, making up for lost time when you're stuck with an alleged sociopath.
Where's the question?
Whom, as we all know, are frequently impotent.
Where is the question, Wolf?
Is there anyone in this room whom you are dating occasionally these days?
No.
You were saying you have not gone out on a one-on-one social situation with anyone in this classroom?
That is not what I said.
Then what are we talking about here? Does it depend on what your definition of is? Have you gone out with anybody or not?
Braden's asked me out a couple of times. We went out for a drink. I mean, coffee. It's just a cup of coffee. But that was it.
Coffee. So that's what the hip people call it these days. Now, Miss Magruder, please identify the individual in this room whom, if you had your druthers, you'd be going home with tonight.
I object.
Why, are you afraid of the answer?
Whoa!
Miss Magruder,
did you send me an email approximately 42 hours ago?
that's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Perhaps you could share the contents of that email with the rest of the class. Or, of course, I could always paraphrase for you.
All right. I said that I missed you.
I'm sorry. Could you speak up, please?
I said that I missed you. And I wondered if we couldn't get together.
And it is nice to know that you miss me so much. And did I write back?
No.
That's because I deleted your email before I read it. But I thank you for assisting me in exploring your obvious bias in this matter. Nothing further.
Prosecution calls Daniel Wolf to the witness stand. Wolf, what do you think of this law school?
Could you be a bit more specific?
We've all read about one of the columns you wrote. This is one of the elite law schools of the United States of America. I think we would all agree with that. You've already intimated that this criminal procedure class is more about perverting justice than facilitating it. We've heard you say that inferior candidate... No. In your world view, that genetically inferior candidates are despoiling this institution.
I never suggested anything of the sort, and I would argue that the term genetically inferior is reflective of your prejudice and stupidity, not my more subtle critique.
Oh, please, illuminate where I've strayed from the path.
Well, I don't know whether different races are superior or inferior, nor does the matter interest me. What I do argue is that in a pluralistic society, leading institutions have nothing less than a moral imperative to be as even-handed as possible. Oh, in practice, Gray, that means establishing clear and objective criteria to allocate society's most treasured prizes.
Aren't the criteria for this school objective?
Of course not. By definition, affirmative action divides society into groups and applies different criteria for different groups.
Everybody pays taxes. Everybody's part of the social fabric. Shouldn't everybody have access to the highest educational institutions?
And you confuse access with selection. Every individual should have access to this school, if by that you mean opportunity. But the selection process shouldn't be influenced by arbitrary and unimportant factors like skin color.
You don't think the United States of America has anything to atone for?
Please, affirmative action isn't about atonement, it's about politics.
Really, how's that?
There's an unholy alliance at work. An unholy political alliance of privileged whites working with privileged and middle-class blacks to exclude the poor and unconnected.
Oh, so James Washington here, your co-counsel, he's one of these privileged blacks?
Albeit unconsciously, you make my point more effectively than I do. Let me be so bold as to speak the unpolitically correct truth. There are 2 black students in this room. James Washington earned his way here. Affirmative action didn't help him. James Washington flourishes in a world that rewards objective excellence, but in that same world, one without affirmative action, Jillian Collins flounders. James Washington is the son of a single mother, a cleaning lady with 6 other children. Jillian's parents are both lifelong bureaucrats in the civil service, but because of the color of her skin and gender, not the content of her character, to paraphrase Dr. King, one of my personal heroes, Jillian Collins occupies a seat in this room, and meanwhile, more able individuals, white and yellow, male and female, scramble to achieve their version of the American dream. Now, is this expedient? Of course. Just? I've drawn my own conclusions.
Conclusions with which our professor, now deceased, disagreed.
Yes.
So the admissions policy to this law school is unjust?
Yes.
What is justice?
The meaning of the word?
Yes, the definition of justice according to Daniel Wolf.
Well, justice is what occurs when that which is good is accomplished and that which is evil is prevented.
And what place does the law, that is, where does the law fit in?
The law is neutral with respect to justice, neither moral or immoral, but amoral. There are good laws or just laws, and bad laws which are unjust.
Which means that a man who is good, that is one who answers to justice, has an obligation to obey those laws which are good and disobey those which are bad.
And you are surprising me pleasantly, Gray. I wish I had a cookie to give you.
So the just man, the man who loves justice, has a duty to fight for the good.
Yes.
And fight against that which is not good.
It's a tautology.
You think affirmative action is unjust, don't you?
I'm on record as such.
Professor Bort supported affirmative action, didn't he?
And that, too, is on record.
Is that why you killed him?
Is that the best you can do?
You are a just man, a man who loves justice for its own sake.
Yes, of that I'm guilty.
I couldn't have framed a better answer.
And framed. He couldn't have chosen a more appropriate word.
Nothing further.
We'll take a brief recess in order for the defense to prepare its strategy. No more than 2 minutes. But under no circumstances is anyone to leave the room. Jurors, you will not discuss the case amongst yourselves.
You were a little rough on Karen.
She likes it that way. Listen, her testimony was revealed to be motivated by vengeance. I'm telling you, the fair Desdemona, she's not worth it, James.
The bastard did it, and we're proving it.
What if he gets off?
He won't.
What if he does? What do we do?
What did we agree to do?
We agreed to tell the police that we came, we studied, left, and we didn't see anything.
Then that's exactly what we're gonna do.
It was pretty hardcore with Wolf and Irina. I told Karen that Wolf would be bad for her.
He's got way too much love in his heart.
If he had his way, I wouldn't be here. Why does a blind man deserve one of society's most treasured prizes?
He's lucky you're not on the jury.
He's luckier I'm not the prosecutor.
As your friend and counselor, I gotta know. Did you do it?
Professor Dershowitz wrote that the job of the defense attorney 99 times out of 100 is to try to get off a man whom he knows is guilty. After you graduate and set up your storefront practice, your best friends and closest business partners will be the worst victimizers of the people in your neighborhood. And why? Because they're the only ones who can afford to pay for your services.
Save the sermon for the non-believers. Did you do it?
No. This is the one time in 100. I did not do it, James.
Let's come to order.
Wolf, call your first witness.
I call Alexander Bakey. Testified earlier that the killing was done with a blunt instrument.
Yes?
Said perhaps it was a baseball bat.
Yes, but I only did a very preliminary examination of the body.
So you're not testifying conclusively that it was a baseball bat?
Correct.
If the actual murder weapon were found, is it likely there would be trace evidence on it, hair and blood from the victim?
Very likely.
And if on such a murder weapon, fingerprints were found, do you think that would be admissible?
Yes.
And would that be good evidence of guilt?
Evidence of guilt? Possibly.
Possibly?
Fingerprints on an object that held hair and blood evidence would be quite damning, provided there weren't good reasons for the fingerprints to be there.
Nothing further.
Prosecution? Cross-examination?
Nothing.
Defense calls Jillian Collins.
Jillian, when you were on the stand tonight, you said you arrived early for class.
Yes, I did.
Isn't it your habit to arrive late for class?
I wouldn't say so.
For your own sake, let me remind you to whom you're addressing this information. We know you. We've spent the last 3 years with you. Aren't you generally a late arriver for class?
Sometimes.
But you were early today.
Yes.
Just a coincidence?
I just got here early.
Did you have an appointment to see Professor Bortz before class?
I didn't have a formal appointment.
But you had an appointment.
I suppose you can call it that.
You had reason to see Professor Bortz, didn't you?
I had something to talk to him about.
Ah, and what was that something?
It's personal.
Jillian, weren't you coming to speak to Professor Bortz about your mark in this class? I mean, you were failing. Miserably. And even this ideological-driven liberal couldn't blind himself to your obvious inability to do the work.
No.
You got here early, but you could not get him to change his mind about your mark.
No.
You tried to convince him, but you couldn't.
That's not true.
So then you lost control, Jillian, because that is what stupid people do.
I am not stupid.
You lost control, Jillian.
Objection. The witness is not on trial, Wolf. As painful as this might be, we must balance it with Wolf's right to a fair hearing.
Jillian, you testified that you touched nothing on Professor Bort's desk this evening. What if I said I saw you going through those papers when I walked into the room?
Be lying.
So your fingerprints wouldn't be on anything on that desk?
No.
Everyone in this room understands that according to Jillian Collins, there's no reason for her fingerprints to be on anything on that desk. So when the police come and fingerprint everything, as we know they will, when the forensics experts come and dust every object in this room and every item on that desk, no fingerprints of Jillian Collins will be found on that desk or on those papers.
I did not tell Mark!
I never said you did.
God! I have a good reason.
Jillian, there's no question pending. You may step down.
I'd like to cross. Go ahead.
Jillian, what do you want to say?
When I got to class, Wolf asked me to pass him the 3-hole punch. When I lifted it, I saw some papers that were marked, and I thought that maybe one of them was mine. So I flipped through them. And then by accident, when I handed him the 3-hole punch, I knocked his coffee cup over with it. And that's what happened.
Jillian, I have a textbook here, a bound notebook, 2 sharpened pencils, 2 pens, and a ruler. What use could I possibly have for a 3-hole punch? Why don't you take a bit more time and come up with yet another version of your story? Don't object. I withdraw the question.
Jillian, you're excused. Call your next witness, Wolf.
I'll be the final defense witness. Direct will be handled by James Washington.
Daniel Wolf. Earlier tonight, we touched on Jillian's background. That is, her parents' professions, and indeed my own. But could you tell us a little bit about your family life?
Well, all right. I never knew my biological father. My mother was a prostitute and heroin addict. I was in and out of foster homes for much of my childhood, and when I was 14 years old, My mother was murdered. After that, I ran away for good, lived in the streets for a time, supported myself working in fast food restaurants, read voraciously, and entered the Army when I was 17.
Why the military?
Well, I wanted to give something to the country that one day would give so much back to me.
Go on.
I spent 6 years in the service, was honorably discharged, and then earned my degree in mechanical engineering. Through hard work and sacrifice, I find myself where I am today.
Your life's been incredibly difficult.
Relevance. I'll allow.
I suppose so.
But you'd agree, and even argue, that history doesn't absolve individuals of responsibilities for their actions.
Of course not.
Wolf, where were you and what were you doing earlier this evening from just before 6 o'clock or so?
I did as I typically do. I walked to class from my apartment. When I arrived, I purchased a large black coffee, as I always do, from the vending machine just outside the door, and then entered the classroom.
Did you note the time?
Somewhere between 5:50 and 6 o'clock.
Now, please be very precise as to what you saw, said, and heard once you entered the classroom.
I purchased the coffee. The door was ajar. I entered the classroom and saw Jillian at the front around Bort's desk.
That's a lie!
Jillian, please.
Jillian seemed a bit agitated and excited, and she was perspiring quite heavily, and it's not that warm an evening. She was fussing with items on the desk. It appeared she was looking for something.
Did you ask her what she was doing?
It was none of my business. I walked in, I sat down, and almost immediately, Jillian came over babbling, making small talk, and waving her hands wildly, and then knocked over my coffee.
Did she knock it over with the 3-hole punch?
No.
Proceed.
The coffee spilled into my lap. In hindsight, I now realize this was an attempt to get me to go to the washroom to clean up. In other words, to get me out of the room.
Wolf, watch it. The jury will disregard everything that Wolf said after describing how Jillian knocked over his coffee.
I think at this point, you and Gray entered, saw the position that Jillian had put me in, and I went to the washroom to clean up as best I could.
To summarize, your testimony is that Jillian was alone in the room when you arrived. You simply could not have committed the crime because you never had opportunity.
Correct.
Thanks.
We've heard some conflicting testimony here, Wolf.
Indeed we have.
Jillian says you got here first, and you say she got here first.
Yes.
You say that Jillian knocked over the coffee cup with her bare hands, and she says it happens when she was handing you a 3-hole punch.
Her grasp of the obvious is awe-inspiring.
Which leaves us to the choice of believing you or Jillian.
Well, I would rephrase that. In this proceeding, I was to be presumed innocent. And this appears to be a case of he said, she said. And he's got all the objective evidence on his side.
You know the truth.
I do.
And the truth is exactly as Jillian says it is.
No, it's not.
Do you realize what you're doing to her?
What I'm doing to her? How about what she's doing to me? She's accusing me of a crime I didn't commit.
You hate Jillian because she's black, don't you?
I don't hate Jillian. I do resent her presence in this institution because she's mediocre. Oh, and if it's any consolation, I don't hate you either, Gray.
Let's not talk about what you hate and don't hate, okay? Let's talk about something you love. Justice.
Go ahead.
Professor Bortz was a champion of affirmative action.
Yes.
Affirmative action, just.
No.
You deny historical need.
Public policy should recognize that society is a collection of individuals, not of groups. Not everyone who is black needs favored treatment. Not everyone who is white deserves to be discriminated against.
Professor Bortz disagreed with you, didn't he?
Yes.
You two had a series of intense arguments, didn't you?
Yes.
He considered your arguments reductive, even foolish.
And he made that abundantly clear.
And you consider your position just?
I've already stated so more than once.
Therefore, as a man of justice, you are obliged to oppose him.
Yes.
By any and all means.
It's a nice try. But all that you've established is that Professor Bortz and I disagreed on a particular issue, and we were predisposed to vigorously debate its merits.
But there's no debate that the person who killed Professor Bortz deserves to be punished.
Yes.
Nothing further.
May I briefly recross?
There's just a few minutes left, but go ahead.
You purchased a coffee from the vending machine across the hall, then immediately came into the classroom and sat down.
Yes.
And Jillian came over to you right away.
As soon as I entered.
So you were in the room for perhaps maybe 30 seconds before the coffee spill.
Correct.
Then not only does Jillian owe you an apology for all these outrageous lies, she owes you a cup of coffee, doesn't she? Thanks.
Closing statements. We only have about 10 more minutes, so keep them very brief. Wolf first.
Approximately 80 minutes ago, I walked into this classroom. Criminal procedure. My favorite class with the professor whose intellect I most respect. Professor Jonathan Bortz. Yes. At times, we disagreed. We disagreed on important issues, the most important issues. But that never diminished our mutual respect. The body of Jonathan Bortz was found in that cloakroom, and I was in a state of shock. Made more acute when I was immediately accused by Jillian Collins of being the murderer. I'll let you sort out her motivations. Immediately, an ex-girlfriend, Karen Zagruder, spurned lover, seconded those false claims against me. And then Braden Gray, a man for whom I have unaffected scorn, and I know the feeling is mutual, tried to lead the rush to judgment. The rush that, in your collective wisdom, halted. Let's take a look at the objective evidence. Alexander Bakey testified that anyone in this room is capable of the force necessary to kill Bortz. Karen Zagruder smeared me by saying that I am a violent sociopath who manifests his antisocial behavior by never acting violently. Jillian repeated her wild accusations, albeit in several different versions. I didn't do it. And if I'm presented to the authorities as the culpable party, then maybe my life isn't over. But my legal career will be. There's simply no evidence that I did it. In fact, there's compelling evidence to suspect others. You must do the right thing. And the right thing is to find me not guilty.
An hour ago, I promised to prove means, motive, and opportunity. Opportunity is clear enough. We have Jillian's testimony, which states that Daniel Wolf was alone in this room with the body of Professor Bortz. Both Washington and I can verify that when we arrived, Jillian and Wolf were the only two here. Means Wolf is capable of enough force and potential weapons abound. Motive is more complex, but just as easily understood. We all know Daniel Wolf through his written and spoken opinions. All of us, and I mean all of us, recognize and profoundly respect his formidable intelligence. But this man is not a harmless contrarian. That is just the tip of the psychological iceberg. Expert testimony has portrayed him as a dangerous sociopath. Karen Zapruder is a woman of exceptional integrity and intelligence, and whatever her past relationship with the defendant, I believe she is capable of separating personal feelings from professional judgment. Wolf's personal demons, fueled by the rage he felt when his intellectual positions were challenged by Professor Bortz, led him to commit cold-blooded murder. Well, our inclination as a decent and civilized people is to give it the benefit of the doubt. Well, in doing so, we put ourselves at the mercy of those not similarly motivated. Wolf's extreme words and thoughts are the blueprint that resulted in the monument of murder. In my heart of hearts, I know he did it. And you know it too. Judge correctly. Judge fairly. Find him guilty.
Jurors, there'll be very little time to deliberate. If you can't reach a unanimous verdict, majority vote will rule. In case of a tie, my vote will break it. Nobody wants to see that happen less than I do. Remember, this is a hearing, not a trial, which means that the burden of proof is preponderance of the evidence. Wolf is presumed not guilty. To find him otherwise, you must believe that the scales of justice tip ever so slightly towards guilt.
We can go back here and deliberate with privacy.
First, we need a foreman. Stay for a while.
That was exceptional work, James. Although I'm not quite certain who those questions about my childhood were for.
Me. Me.
Martin, let me slip out and use the cane. Come on, it's me.
Go ahead.
Congratulations.
For what?
You did so much better than I expected.
Thank you.
It's too bad you lost.
We haven't lost anything yet.
Oh, you don't get it, do you? After 3 years in law school, you just don't get it.
Don't get what?
In my heart of hearts, I know he did it. Judge him fairly, find him guilty. You don't get anything. This procedure was a wonderful microcosm of our entire criminal justice system. You think systems are the answer. You believe that systems by themselves are capable of a morality superior to the people who construct them? That's absurd. Systems are the problem. Who creates them? We do. And what are we? Inherently selfish, inherently evil. But people like you go along your merry way, deluding yourselves that the structures we create protect us from our brutish natures. And you got it backwards, idiot. There are no ethical shortcuts. Systems don't mitigate our flaws. Systems magnify.
You insult people far better than you will ever be.
Well, people like you, Gray? Can't you get it through your skull? I didn't do it. Except your ego and pettiness won't allow you to recognize the obvious.
I am not making my decision based on what's best for the six of us. Can't believe you'd say that.
And I can't believe you're not thinking it. I'm the only one honest enough to say it out loud.
Guys, we only have 30 seconds to come up with a verdict.
Thought you might be needing your caffeine fix. Thanks. You didn't get to drink any from your first cup this evening, right? No. It's hot. Don't spill it. Could burn you pretty badly.
Let's come to order.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
We have.
Before we hear it, I want to confirm that we all understand the ground rules. All of us will be bound by this decision.
We find the defendant, Daniel Wolf, not guilty.
Let me remind everyone once more. We now carry on with our lives and pretend that this past hour never happened. Let the chips fall where they may. It's over. It's time to go home.
It's a wonderful system we have here.
Hope you're proud of yourself, Washington.
As a matter of fact, I've never been prouder.
Just tell the police they'll believe you.
They didn't.
Washington, Gray. It has prevented you from disturbing a crime scene.
Between the two of you, I don't know who's worse.
Shut up! Just shut up! You disgust me.
Nothing worse than a poor loser. Well, this really was one of the most productive criminal procedure classes we've ever had. Don't you think? So the question is, who would like to go out for a brewski? First round's on me. Oh, and Braden, I don't think I'm gonna finish that coffee.
Daniel! Daniel!
That's him.
Daniel Wolf.
Who wants to know?
Mr. Wolf, would you mind stepping back into the room?
Workroom?
I'll get the custodian.
May I inquire as to what this is regarding, officer?
Victim's a male Caucasian. Mr. Wolf, we'd like you to come down to the station with us. We've got a few questions to ask you.
Why?
Who's James Washington? That's me. I called.
He admitted to me that he did it. He told me that he killed Professor Bortz. Then he told me how we tricked Jillian into picking up the murder weapon, the 3-hole punch.
You're lying!
Mr. Wolf, you'll have to come with us.
I have to do no such thing.
Then we'll have to arrest you.
Well, then arrest me then.
Mr. Wolf, you're under arrest for suspicion of murder. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Do you understand these rights?
Better than you do.
We'll need to speak to the rest of you as well. Wait here, okay? And sit apart. Don't speak to each other.
I guess you're not going to make such a great defense attorney after all.
I wouldn't be so sure.